Are your Martech tools solving real problems or just adding complexity? What would your team actually do if automation gave you your time back? What if creativity isn't just happening in ad copy, but in the data layer? Hey everyone, welcome back to What Gets Measured, a NinjaCat podcast about marketing, performance management, metrics, and effectiveness, because what gets measured gets managed. I'm Jake Sanders. Today's guest, Anna Mourão, is a longtime practitioner of the Martech arts, working in-house in consulting roles, and the creator of the Experimental Marketer Framework, which helps marketers cut through complexity, take ownership of their data and tech, and lead with curiosity, not chaos. This episode is packed with practical insight, thoughtful optimism, and a reminder that the most powerful marketing tech still depends on human creativity. So, let's go! Anna Mourão has dedicated her career to helping marketers navigate the ever-evolving world of marketing technology and customer data. From optimizing CDPs to making data truly actionable, she's passionate about cutting through Martech complexity to drive real impact. Her LinkedIn account is always overflowing with inspiration and useful advice, and today Anna is here to talk about bringing sense to Martech. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacob. I'm very excited to be here.
We've been longtime friends on LinkedIn, and
Yes.
this has been a long time happening. So I'm so happy you're here, and you are seriously, I'm not kidding. She's out here asking really insightful questions, really sharing things, and bringing her experience to life, and it's a joy. So thank you for being here. But let's get to this. You talk about Martech, you're very in that space, but I think we're hitting an overwhelming point because CDPs, CRMs, analytic platforms, now you got your AI tools. It's very easy for people to get overwhelmed. You developed something called the Experimental Marketer Framework to help teams take ownership. And I just wanted you to kind of outline that and then detail some of the ways that experimentation, agility, some of those things that might be able to ease the overwhelm. I know it's a big question. Take it at your leisure.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, so I developed the experimental marketer framework based on my own experience with Martech, right? Throughout different companies, different industry, very large, complex enterprises. And what I have learned is that a lot of times the tools are purchased but they don't match the process or they don't match a lot of the pain points, right, that the marketing teams have or the processes they have inside the company. So I really think that Martech offers marketers the capability of not only improving customer or client facing communication and engagement, but also improve processes and improve the way the teams work together around those platforms. So that's why I developed the framework to help other marketers get started on that journey of really understanding, having a marketer's understanding of how those platforms can help processes as well. So, how is it that we can make the most value out of those platforms? And in my experience, it really starts with, first of all, finding your allies, right? So, you will have people that are also interested in experimenting, that are also sharing the pain points that you have in a lot of those processes. They belong to other teams, and that's okay, right? So you find them, and then from there, you can do a very small, like proof of concept approach. So let's get one brand, one market, one issue that we can improve the process, and then, you know, implement campaigns much faster so that we can customize better to our customers at the end. So those are the things that I think really help being experimental and really help marketers go and lead those proof of concepts, lead those conversations. They don't need to be super technical in nature, but they need to have the marketer's point of view.
Mm. And something you said that I wrote is pain points are not a personal failing. What I thought you were saying is like you buy these tools, but they're not connected to your pain points or your processes. You said step one is finding those allies, but I think step negative one, step zero, might be finding those pain points. And then how often
Exactly.
do you think people are willing to admit the pain points? And like most people are like, oh, the wheels fell off the bus. We should look into tires. Like, do you think pain point explanation, pain point communion, pain point confession? How do you get to these pain points? Do you think people are kind of hiding their pain points? I know I would be.
Yeah, I think people get used to it, right?
Mm.
And sometimes they
Mm.
don't even see the alternative because
Mm.
it's always been this way, or,
It's part of the
I always,
process. Oh boy.
exactly, exactly. I've always had this dependency for making pains, and what do you mean it won't exist anymore? And sometimes I had those conversations where it took them a while to really like visualize what I was explaining because it would be so disruptive to the process that it was like, right? And I'm like, no, but it work, it will work, and
It'll
things
work.
will continue. There will be a tomorrow. And so, sure enough, right? We did a small proof of concept. It worked, and yes, okay, now let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's key. And I was especially about large organizations. Everyone hears you got to experiment, you got to be experimental. And are people
It's
experimenting?
hard.
I mean, yeah. So you're saying it's hard. I love that you said you don't take the whole sandwich. Just take a bite. Make a small thing. Is that does that land with people? Does that make people feel more comfortable? Talk a little bit more about
Absolutely.
that bite.
Absolutely, because when it comes to Martech, for instance, it allows us to kick the tires, right, before really buying
Mm,
a big platform, a big investment. So let's kick the tires. Let's have a POC that is paid also. So it's a very small, very specific, very narrow scoped project, but that is also representative, right, of the
mm,
challenges of the day to day.
mm.
And then after that, if everyone is if it meets the criteria that everyone agreed upon, then yes, okay, nice, let's
Hmm.
go. If it doesn't, so let's rethink the use cases or maybe the platform, right? Let's review this process. So that's how we have been doing.
When people are evaluating the platforms, the Martech platforms that they want to do, how often are they relying on like a Google search, or how often do they come with the competitive set already involved?
That's a good question. I think it depends.
Mm,
Right? So you will have, depends on the size of the company, if the company already has a stack in place, because sometimes you already have like a big enterprise player,
right.
right, inside the company, and they will bring their ads on and you try, and that's the way it is. Sometimes it's a smaller company, and then they will start with the Google search, right? Sometimes I see some of those conversations start at Slack channels full of other
Mm.
professionals, right? So
Mhm.
it's really asking for recommendations. So they usually come with, this is my use case, very simple, simply explained, and then people can chime in. So I think it really depends on the size of the company, the need. In my case, since I'm more towards the enterprise, right? It's more like related to what we already had or brought on by other vendors as well, right?
Right.
Because it fits. So those are also ways to find those.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so that does make sense. So experimental is the heart, but then here's another question that's related to that. Maybe the challenge isn't collecting data anymore. It's all over the place. It's what do you do with it? How do you make it actionable? You know, you're talking about experimenting, you're talking about kicking tires of the Martech tires. How what are some of the ways that you've seen some of your clients or people in the industry make data actionable, like if it's for evaluating platforms or if it's working internally on a process or trying to evaluate? I mean, there's all this data that you can gather. What have you seen steps or advice on how to turn it into something actionable?
Yes. So I would say a few things, right? So first of all, make sure that you have content to use against the data points that you are collecting, right? I think that us marketers, we have this idea of, oh, let's collect everything, let's collect it, collect as much as possible. But sometimes we are not prepared to use that data, right? If we read the privacy policy, for the most part, the promise in the privacy policy is that we are collecting data that we will use to make your experience with us better.
Right.
So if you are collecting data and you don't have a way of using such data to improve the experience of your client, customer, and user, then why are you collecting? So first of all, be
No,
mindful,
big number one
right?
right there. Yeah, that's a good one.
Big number one, be
Yeah.
mindful.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that having a strong first party data strategy is also key, right? Because then you're not renting intent, you're not renting that you build yourself. And then it also goes back to content, right? You need to have content to make it worth people's time to sign up with you, to be with you, to continue to receive your communication. So ideally, there is this very strong first party data that can then be augmented, enriched with second, third party data, right? Intent, what have you. But it needs to be the first party data must be there, right? Because that allow you to be the closest to your customer. It allows you to also have focus groups and go and ask them stuff and reach out. And that also allows, if you have all the proper consent in place, it also allows you to leverage that to build segments in paid media, for instance, and then make your budget in paid media go further, right? And be more targeted. So there are
Of
many
course.
benefits there. So
Huge.
that's also something that I think also helps a lot on the activation when you own the data and you're like, oh, it's my data. And for marketers, right, they start realizing, oh, I had such a hard time collecting this data and reaching this data. So now I better use well this data.
Right.
So they own it and they take pride in it, and then they are. I also think this plays a role, right? And they get to be more excited about using it for activation as well.
Wow. Pride of ownership, allies. You said, mindfulness. These are kind of interesting tangential things that you wouldn't think are required here with marketing technology. All you really need to know is technology. Turns out that it's a lot about relationships. Turns out it's a
Totally.
lot about just sensing what you're feeling. I love that. You said that you were going to use this data to improve my customer experience, but did you? I think some people will be like, I don't know if
Exactly.
I did. So this is related. This next question is related a little bit to data, because then you bubble it up, you turn it into actionable things. Maybe you're collecting those pain points, you're understanding the processes, you're open to experimentation, innovation. Everyone says innovation. It's here, but it feels like creativity and tech sometimes are at odds a bit. This is the way it's done, and here's a brand new way to do it. Those kind of clash a little bit. Have you seen innovative marketing initiatives? Like, what does innovation mean? And then how do you know that innovation is going to turn into a result or tangibility? Like, people are saying innovation's here, but is it in the room with us? And what do you think innovation means in marketing technology?
I think that overall we have very narrow definitions of innovation and creativity, right? Because they're usually very connected to the communication to the customer, to the consumer, to the end user, right? To the campaign, to the activation. And that's wonderful, right? We all love it. But I also think that improving a process, right, where the data comes the cleanest as possible to the database, so it's super ready for you to use and for customization, it also requires some creativity at the end, right? And I think this part of creativity is not really valued as much, but we must have it, right? Nowadays, I think that the landscape is getting so convoluted. There's so much going on. You have to adapt so fast.
Right.
And I think that creating systems, processes, putting a martech that is flexible and agile enough to allow you to adapt quickly, it requires creativity at this point in time, right? Because this is not something that some vendor will bring to you and check some boxes for you. No, you have to go and you have to find out that balance for yourself. There's going to be some trial and error, some kicking the tire,
Kicking the
right? All
tires
that
again.
good
Yes.
stuff. So there's some experimentation, right? So I think that requires also innovation and creativity, even though it doesn't look like, right? Oh, I'm going to talk to my IT team. How can that be creative? But actually, I think I've met data integration engineers that were extremely creative,
Hmm.
extremely, because I would come to them with an issue like this is the use case, and they would find a way, right? They would find a way that would fit our process, that would fit what we wanted, the use case, would explain to me pros and cons. And so, right, it was not like, oh, Anna, we cannot do it. You go and find someone else, another platform. It was like, no, interesting. Let me think about it, and came with an idea. So for me, that's creativity, even though, right, it's a data integration engineer. It's not like in Keynes or anything. But it allowed the process to be flexible, and that
Yeah.
for an enterprise company, a flexible process that is not too convoluted, it's like, oh, wow, it opens a lot of doors, right? So that's
But
my view. It's a very
oh no, it's beautiful.
opinionated.
No, well, there's something there about a sense of self, having an inner sense is the key to innovation. And then you pointed out something which was interesting, which creativity is not a thing, it's a relationship that can only happen as a relationship. And because what if I meet
Exactly.
this thing, with this person and this thing, and that relationship is the creative act, and someone saying like, well, is it creative? Checkbox, yes, no. And you just made a really
Hmm.
great, insightful connection, which I think connects to that first question about experimentation and understanding people and processes more than anything, and then connecting those things and then using technology to make the relationships dope. So think about going forward. Here we are, the future. Just like you said, we have to adapt. Like almost too fast. I would say slow down, folks. But we have to adapt. What there's exciting, there's disruptive changes in Martech. What are you excited about? What do you think people aren't paying attention to? Just give me kind of that look down the road, and what gets you excited.
Okay. What gets me excited, it's the same thing that gets me very scared.
Okay,
It's
noted.
like being in two places at the same time, because it's really the automation, the agentic piece of it,
Mhm.
right? Be it AI agents or agentic AI, which are different things,
Right.
right? This idea that we can really automate, we can create some like testing machines that can be, using a bunch of assets, creative assets that we can then test at like real time with
Mhm.
personalization, customization. So all of a sudden you have that piece that takes us a while, like let's put a test together and da, da, da. All automated, right? And a lot of the analytics that you can just prompt with very easy questions in English, no SQL required.
Right.
So those are things that are amazing. But on the other hand, automation also means, right? In a lot of times it means leaner teams. So how would that play out?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it also means understanding what the machine can't do, right? So there is a strategic side of marketing that maybe we don't even know exactly what it looks like nowadays because we have been in the tactical for so long by now,
Ooh, hey, hey now.
right? We have been
Yeah.
rewarded for the tactical, the short term. So now that we can have free time or freer time because of
Right.
automation, what is it that we're going to do with it?
Hmm.
Right? So it's exciting. Oh, wow, I can have more time to be strategic. And then it's like, what does that even mean? Right? How can I prove my value in that way?
Right.
So it's the same. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
for marketers, we will see marketers going back to the basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go and sit in conversations about pricing. Let's go and sit in conversations about product and really sit, not just like, oh, talk about campaign and clicks and CACs. No, really like listen,
Yeah.
right? Go and be there, present for the teams and understand how that interfaces with you. So I think that is something that is coming. I think it will be connected to this moment of showing what the human can bring to the equation and what we can do once automation frees our time. That's the
Yes.
promise, right? So hopefully
We'll get there. We're going to get there,
we'll
but
get there.
it's nice to know that there's someone like you who's out there not only leaning into the tech, and as you have to deeply understand these things. And you rattled off a couple acronyms there. It's not about the CAC.
Yes,
This like comes from deep knowledge. You can throw these terms around, but I love that your heart is in the place where the relationships are, where the people are, where the processes are, and you're not afraid to show up in those other meetings, and you're demanding a seat there. And I think a lot of marketers can say, how is it possible that I can be, if this agent, thing is real, what are you going to do with your extra time? Are you going to go and sit in on sales meetings? Are you going to use those things to learn more about your customers? Are you going to use this tech to find
exactly.
more about, you know what I mean? So it's like, it isn't just
Exactly.
about the tech is good or bad. Well, let's see what you do with it, because that still is on you. The innovation, the creativity, the explosive energy of Anna. People want to connect with you. How can they do that online, Anna?
Please check my LinkedIn profile, right? You can also visit my website, which is my name, ANAMOURAO.ai, and the experimentalmarketer.com, which is also a website with a framework.
Cheese or chocolate?
Are you ready?
Mm, yes,
Okay. Cheese or chocolate?
chocolate.
Okay. Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Did you pick it?
Pasta. Yes,
I
pasta.
heard you say it. That's tough. And I was like, ooh, it is. Because
And it is tough. It
is
was
it
crossed
is
my
it
mind.
tough though? It seems like pasta came really quick to you. You didn't even think about that.
I love both, but pasta I love more than
Okay.
pizza.
Okay. All right. That's fine. You don't have to explain yourself. Don't explain yourself to me. Walking in the wind or walking in the rain?
Walking in the rain.
Do you want to talk about that, or you just want to?
Well, no, I think that walking in the wind is much harder. I would say I prefer the rain. I think it's like more poetic, even.
There you go. Very poetic. Might not leave the ground. I like that. Fun sweaters or serious sweaters?
Ooh, fun sweaters.
Are you a fun sweater person?
I think I am a fun print person. I'm
Right.
in South Florida, so maybe not sweaters because it's very hot here year
Yeah,
round,
different. Like
right?
when the
But
weather
but
works.
prints.
Okay,
Yes, when the weather
Prince.
works, yes.
Okay, all right. Now I don't know what
Yes.
a serious sweater looks like, but I think the audience had one in mind. Okay, two more. Clean spreadsheets or clean bed sheets?
I have to choose just one. No, impossible. Tie.
I know. What was I thinking with this question? Like, it's bed sheets, right? No? Then you want the.
Yes, no, but bed sheets, I need them clean as well as the clean Excel spreadsheet. So
I mean,
it's
and that's the
both.
thing. No cookies in the spreadsheets. Don't.
No, no
Oh wow,
cookies.
there's a
No.
Martech thing there, but I'm talking about actual cookie crumbs and not pixels. Anyway, Martech, what have we done to ourselves? Okay, finally, the last question: late nights or early mornings?
Early mornings.
Right? Did you used to be a late night character?
I used to, but then, with children, you
Oh yeah, that's
have to
gone.
take them to school and everything. And nowadays I appreciate not super early. I'm not like the 4:30, 5:30 crew, no,
Right.
but early mornings.
Early enough. Yeah, yeah, early
Early
enough.
enough.
She's out there. Oh, Anna.
Yes.